If every political leader in the world and every activist, every member of the royal family just bangs on totally, constantly, 24/7 about climate change, you're going to get actresses turning up saying, let's go back to wartime rationing to save the planet. It is indoctrinating people. This is not quite the pressing issue that everybody seems to take it for. And what Joanna Lumley is repeating is not fact. The climate change emergency is not a fact. It is a political standpoint that some of us don't agree with. And yet it has now become a kind of orthodoxy that everybody accepts. And that, I think, is dangerous.
Yes, it is. In fact, here in the United States, we have a poll out today from the Associated Press claiming that more people than ever are concerned about climate change. But about the 18th paragraph down, Kevin, it mentions that no one is willing, 52% of the people are willing to pay $1 a month to fight climate change. And if the amount goes up, $1.50, $2 a month, the support drops well below 50%. So people are willing to virtue signal and say, oh, yes, I'm very concerned. Are you willing to pay anything? Maybe half the people might say $1 a month, and that's it. That's the issue that they had the emergency. What Joanna Lumley is doing, though, and this is the big story here, you just opened up, Kevin, by saying COVID climate. Well, that's the genius of what she's proposing. It's essentially a merging of COVID and climate. They want to go from the COVID lockdowns to climate lockdowns. And you had a major UK funded report in 2019. We had the International Energy Agency coming out with reports. You had a Gates funded, Soros funded professor a year ago in the UK come out and basically use the phrase climate lockdown. So when she's talking about rationing airline travel, banning meat eating, that's in all of these reports. The idea is you won't be able to travel freely in a declared climate emergency. So Joanna Lumley, unfortunately, is now in the mainstream of the academic left. She's part of the mainstream.
Yeah, and listen to what it gets her to say. She says, this is an interview in the Radio Times over here, big publication. These are tough times. We might even have to go back to some kind of rationing where you're given a certain number of points and it's up to you how to spend them, whether it's buying a bottle of whiskey or flying in an aeroplane. So she wants us to restrict our lives. She definitely doesn't want us to go to foreign places abroad on holidays, vacations. She wants us to stay close and save the planet. She wants us to accept that we're only able to buy a certain amount of goods, to just restrict all of our lives for this vague concept of tackling the climate change emergency. Someone needs to tell her it's not an emergency.
Yes, and here's the key, but it's not only is it not an emergency, but if we actually faced an emergency and we did everything the European Green New Deal, the United Nations, the net zero crowd, the insulate Britain, if we followed all their prescriptions, the earth wouldn't know a difference and they would never be satisfied. These activists, how many times has a UN summit, and I document this in my book, Green Fraud, 2015, the UN Paris Agreement, 2019, Copenhagen, going back to Kyoto Protocol. They always declare that they've saved the planet, that this is the day our children and grandchildren will remember. And then a year or two later, we have to save it all over again. They're never happy. They're never satisfied.
Yeah. Oh, that planet. Didn't we save that a couple of years ago? Yeah, we're going to save it again. But seriously, Mark, you coming over? Are you coming over for COP26?
I will be in Glasgow, Scotland on Sunday morning. I'll be going there. I'm doing a speech in Edinburgh, I believe, on Tuesday. And I'll be at the UN summit. I'm a recognized UN observer with the NGO. And I'm coming. And our message is simple. Greta Thunberg is correct. Climate skeptics in the United States can finally agree with Greta. She has called this whole process blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And we are here to tell her that she has finally figured it out. We're here to support her. We're going to offer her emotional and scientific support because after every UN climate summit, one thing is sure to happen. Carbon dioxide emissions continue to go up in the atmosphere. And we have the whole chart to show it. Greta is right to call this the blah, blah, blah summit.
It's a waste of time. It's a massive waste of time.
Yes.
Since we last spoke, Mark, we're just running out of time now, but
Sure.
Xi Jinping has said he's not coming. Vladimir Putin's not coming. If these big polluters don't come, it's just a waste of time. It's just Western leaders virtue signaling to each other about how great they are. It's absolute nonsense.
And here's the funny thing about, you mentioned China. China said no to a face-to-face meeting with Joe Biden. Chinese delegates said no to a meeting with John Kerry. Do you know who China went all out to actually meet with in person?
Go on.
The Taliban. Why? Because the Taliban is going to give the China the mineral rights to their land for all the rare earth mining to deal with Europe and the United States' obsession with solar, wind, and electric car batteries. Guess who we're going to be more reliant on? Not just Russia or OPEC.
The Taliban.
As Europe shuts down energy, but we're going to be more dependent on China and the Taliban. So this is our insanity, which we're coming up here next week. And I'm going to have a lot of fun at this summit.
I bet you will. So we'll be in touch when you're over and we'll get you on the show, yeah?
I will be the turd in the punch bowl. I am that turd.
That's one way to put it. Thank you so much, Mark. Always a pleasure. Mark Morano, creator of the Climate Depot.